Då ska ni vara varmt välkomna till det 202 avsnittet av Podcast Juventus Club Svezia. Och denna gång har jag med mig ingen mindre än Giuseppe Bognanni. Välkommen!
God morgon, Juventini i världen. Jag heter Giuseppe.
Det är härligt att höra. Du lovar att lära dig lite svenska och nu fick vi se. Let's see you get evidence of a little bit of Swedish now.
Now yes. Look, jag talar inte svenska. Pratar du engelska?
Yes, of course. Let's do the episode in English then. You are very welcome to this episode, the 202nd of the podcast, and I'm honored to have you on.
No, thank you for the invite. I'm super happy. I said on my YouTube channel a few days ago, I said that I was extremely happy for the invite because we have a big community of people from Sweden that are watching the channel. And not only because of the views that they are bringing, because there are really a lot of people from Sweden watching, but also for the time that they are remaining, because the country Sweden, if I'm watching in the length of the audio retention or how long they are staying on the channel, the time retention on the channel is really long. So people not only they tune in because of curiosity or because of sensationalism. For example, shorts is something that Sweden don't watch too much on my channel, but I really like the long formats where we are speaking, because I'm doing kind of 20 minutes videos now. And they are staying there, they are commenting, so the loyalty is incredible. So that's why I was extremely happy to be here today to speak with you and with the Sweden community.
Yes, and it's an honor to have you on. On that topic, when you do solo episodes, is that much harder? Because I done it a few times, but I have guests on every episode, but you do it solo. It is harder to do it without guests.
But I'm used to do it without guest. I can do it as well with guest. When I'm doing the morning videos where it's actually not that much about sharing of opinions, but more about reporting news, it's easier to do it alone. Then when you have a guest, I always put myself in a humble way, like, okay, I want to hear what the guest has to say. And I erase myself a bit about my opinions when I am a guest, because I really want to put the guest at the honor. And that's a total different way of understanding. More difficult, I don't know. Of course, I'm doing the lives alone a lot. And it's something that I really wanted to put on me doing it alone. Why? Because I bet a lot on the interaction with the people that are watching. For me, it's important not only that people are listening to what you and a guest are saying, but also that they have the possibility to write, and that I'm reading what they are writing, so that they can have that immediate interaction, like, okay, I saw you, I know what you're writing, and I will answer you, so that you are part of the show more than just you are a viewer, because that's a really good television format. People are watching television without the possibility to give their opinion. While here, I believe on YouTube, the great thing is that you have people that can be recognized. And I believe we are going in a world where more and more people want their opinion to be heard, to be viewed, and to share it. So that's why I love it. Then, of course, when you have guests, it's a beautiful moment, of course, because you have great guests, you have known guests, you have people that are a bit less known, but all opinions are important. So I love both of them.
Yeah. And what about when you get the position of host for Juventus official Twitch channel? How did that go?
Well, actually, I started the channel on YouTube, my own channel, as a game, passion, sharing Juve in English, because I noticed back then there were not a lot of people speaking about Juve on a visual format. You had written text, you had blogs, a lot, but not that much in video format, and especially not in English. And also because I saw that a lot of people, they were reading headlines, translating headlines without really going into detail. And that's really what I wanted to do. So it started actually like a game. I did it for 1 year without huge ambition. My biggest ambition was to have like 1,000 Juventini on the channel after 1 year. At the end, we reached 10,000 in 1 year. So I was extremely happy about the success of the channel. And but I was not really dreaming that big or that huge. I had not big, huge, famous objective. That was absolutely not the case. And then I saw a contest online to become the Twitch host of Juventus, where actually I was not really in. Of course, it's nice, but I said, from the moment that you are participating, and if you win, you will see the backstage of a club that will not become only anymore your favorite childhood club, but also your employer. And when you see the backstage, not always it's really nice. So I said, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to participate. But my wife, she convinced me. She said, maybe, but if you don't try, and if it's someone else, you will probably regret it all your life. So try. You can win, you can lose, but at least, you will have no regrets in your life. And I did it. It was a really big, huge, long contest with different steps. And at the end, I was lucky enough to win it. But it's not really the fact that I won that make me the most proud. It's actually that I have been extended for 3 times, because it's always, like one season that we go to.
Yeah.
And I received already 3 extensions. I don't know when it will finish. Maybe one day, maybe next season I will not be there anymore. But this is for me the biggest pride I have today, that Juventus Football Club, the club that I love the most, they trusted me, and in English and in Italian, to say, Beppe, we are appreciating the work that you are doing, and we want to continue with you, which is really, really beautiful. And now they are also giving me, since now a bit more than a season, the opportunity to interview players, coaches, or staff from Juventus, which is now a bit more normal to me because I'm doing it a lot of time. But I always promise to myself I want to continue to be a supporter. I am not a journalist. I am not better than someone else because I work for Juventus partially. But I want to do it understanding the privilege I have, the luck I have, and trying to be the voice of every Juve supporter that couldn't have the chance or the luck that I have. So I always watch it and do it with the eyes of a big tifoso of Juventus.
And you said as a child you started to follow Juventus. Why Juventus?
Well, because it's a funny story. I was in the streets, because back then we were still playing in the street football with all my cousins, and we were playing a penalty shootout games, and every kid had to take a player from his favorite team. And they were all taking Milan players back then, because it was end of the 80s where Milan was doing fantastic things. And I had no favorite club back then because I was really kid. And they were mocking me a bit because they said, then you are an Atalanta fan or a Udinese fan. 2 teams that back then were not really huge. And I understood really well that they were mocking me. So I went home and I said to my father, who are we supporting? And he said, we are supporting Juventus, we are supporting black and white no matter what. And I remember that then I become a kid supporter without really becoming an expert back then, because I was really a kid. But I believe that I entered really professional supporting when Del Piero started to be a professional football player, at least at Juventus. I believe around 93, I was 12. This is really when I started to get really into Juventus, much more than just being a Juventino as a kid.
Yeah, it's the same for me, but I am born in 85, so a little bit smaller than you, but it was Del Piero in the middle of the 90s to get me into Juventus.
Yeah, Del Piero is one of the big deciding factors from a lot of Juventino.
Yeah, players. Exactly. About him, do you think he's coming back in a position in the club?
Not now. I don't believe now. Will he come back one day? I hope so, because having a Del Piero close to the club and in the club is important. But I believe it's really smart what he's doing. It makes no sense to have a player coming back because he is an ex-player. Not all ex-players are great managers. It's not because you were a great player that you are a great manager. We didn't see anything of Del Piero as a great manager. Of course, he's managing his restaurants around the world, and there he's doing really well. But what about the managing position? On the other side, I understand Del Piero that also saying, if I come back, I want also a decisive role at Juventus and not just being an image man. So I think it's both ways that are taking time. We don't have to rush, just to rush. The right moment for both, and Juventus as a club and him as a player, will arrive. Now, I'm extremely happy, since now I believe 2 seasons, to see you, Del Piero more present. He has always been there, but more present also in the stadium, around the club. That's beautiful. Then will he come back? I think one day eventually would happen, but don't rush.
And I'll say the same about Claudio Marchisio, who has his birthday. I saw you publish it. What about him? Him. To me, he's the perfect guy to be in the academy. To be a name in the director seat in the academy.
Claudio, look, we are speaking now. If I want to go towards generalities, Claudio Marchisio, Giorgio Chiellini, even Barzagli, they are all men that we want to see in our club. But I agree with you that Claudio can be a fantastic man for the youth academy. In what role? But that's always the question, in what role? Because these players, and I believe it's extremely smart, like Del Piero, for example, that we just covered, they don't want to be just image men. They want to have an important role. And that will be extremely important for the remaining part of or for the next step in their career. What can they really represent at Juventus?
Yeah, exactly. And I saw Chiellini, he is staying in LAFC for some time, but he's talking about Juventus and a return, and he have an economical degree, so he can make a part of the future of Juventus.
Yeah. Look, we always praised the fact that he had a degree, which not all of the players have. Tenacity, it's a smart man that can come back to Juve. Now, I think it's a really smart step that he did in going to play in MLS, to understanding of also a different world, a different way of managing a club. Now entering his first step as a manager, because he will be head of player development in LA. I believe it's also extremely important because, you know, when you arrive in your first job at Juventus, or you succeed, there are no choices, because you can't not succeed. If you don't succeed, it's over. For example, with all the respect I have for Andrea Pirlo, that at the end brought us 2 trophies when he coached Juve.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity that you have, and I think that he did the right choice, because the trains sometimes they are just arriving one time. He took it, but probably he was not ready yet for a club like Juventus. And now you see that he had to start back from the bottom again, working on his career to become a professional big coach. And after coaching in Turkey, he's now in 2nd division. And I believe that it's also an example for other players, like, okay, if we go in our very first job at Juventus, we have to be ready, because the expectations are much higher, and you can't just arrive and, okay, tell me, what do I have to do? So I think it's a really smart decision from Claudio to stay a bit longer, to entering the first step of a manager. How do you wear a suit every single day instead of a training gear?
Yeah, exactly. And I talk about this quite a lot in the podcast, both with Juventino and opponents, supporters. You see in Milan, you got Maldini for a director role, and now he's gone, and they have a lot of coaches who did return, so you don't burn bridges with the club you have in your heart.
I agree. Look, Maldini, but you know, he before arriving there, you know, a lot of moments passed, and you had to have a patience. Then he didn't agree that much with the new ownership, and that's one of the problems of Milan in changing ownership every single time. It's not the first time since they had so many different owners, and I believe stability is important, is key, especially in these big roles. Look, if Del Piero, Chiellini, whoever we were speaking about last year would have arrived in that moment of turbulence at Juventus without that much of clarity, I think it would have been a big pity, because the chances to be burned would have been much bigger than succeeding. So look, we went for a board of members with finance people, with lower people, because we had other big priorities to deal with. Successive on that step, we started to work on our sporting part with Cristiano Giuntoli, and now we will develop it, because Tognozzi, for example, left. So we'll have to continue to develop on that one. but now you have a bit more stability. Now you have a bit more a vision about what you want to go do, what you want to do, and then you can continue to build. And then it's easier to insert a missing piece that will be an added value, like whoever player that we are speaking about, than in a moment of turbulence just put people there because they have a name. It could have been problematic.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't remember, but I think it was 11 or 12 board members before when Andrea Agnelli were the president. And now you got the president, the CEO, and like 3 members, so it's 5. So you have to fill up the board members too.
I don't know if we will, because you are not obliged to go with a 12, or it's not a number that you have to reach. So I don't know if we will add more people to reach a 12. But so I'm not an expert neither about how it works with board. But I don't think we will have to complete them. And not all the people that we will bring in high position roles, they will all be part of the board of members. I believe it's 2 total different things.
Yeah, exactly. And what you say earlier with Del Piero, he want to have a decisive role, like Pavel Nedved had the vice president role, maybe such a position for him, but in the future.
But Del Piero, I think he made it really clear to be there as vice president, just showing up at the stadium, saying hello to the fans. No, thank you. If you have a role like whatever, manager, vice president, and you can be decisive in choices that you make, in leading, that's a total different step.
Yeah, and what do you think about the Italian owners? We have the Agnelli family for 100 years of ownership of Juventus, and you see like AC Milan with the Americans. Now we see Inter Milan with the Chinese and such. I saw a research, I think it was 21% of the teams in Serie A, Serie B, Serie C who are North American. What do you think about that? And 100 years under Agnelli family.
Look, I'm extremely proud. Maybe I'm a bit vintage person, because you said you were born in 85. I'm born in 81.
Yeah.
But I love that continuity of having the same family. That doesn't mean that you can't change. I'm not against any change, but I think it brings you a lot of stability, a lot of pride. And you see also John Elkann bringing again a capital increase of 200 million euro, believing in the club. The big difference is it's a family thing, and it's much more difficult to just throw it away when things are going bad, when there is that emotional part is there. That doesn't mean that every step that we are doing is correct. That doesn't mean that Agnelli family is perfect and every time it's fantastic and beautiful and that we have to applaud. But at least you are sure that before taking a decision, they are thinking twice about it, because you have that emotional part that is there. And John Elkann, I always thought, and I don't know in live, but does he really want to be the first one that will sell the toy of his grandfather? I'm not sure, because that remains on your name. So I'm extremely happy that we have that continuity, and it's a sign of pride for us Juventini. Look, Zhang, how long is he not going to the San Siro stadium, to the Giuseppe Meazza to watch Inter? I don't know. Then if things are going well for them, congratulations to whoever, to Milan, I'm not against new countries entering, being part of taking ownership. If things are going well, congratulations for them. But I prefer that historical, romantic side of football in a way.
Yeah, and I'll talk about with the opponents' supporters too about this, like Massimo Moratti in Inter, we got Berlusconi in Milan, we got the Sensi family in Roma, and now it's all American or Chinese and stuff. They don't bring the culture of Italian football, of calcio, because they have heritage from Italy. Do you see that as a problem for those clubs?
I don't know if it's a problem or not, because of course, I don't want to watch too much in the house of of someone else. But it's true that some decision they can be taken without respecting the culture of the club, and that's, I think, a real pity. Because at the end, you have to understand what it's about. Like Friedkin, they come to Roma with big intentions. One of the first one is to bring sporting results, but also to grow the brand. And then they are arriving in Italy, and they are confronted to things that they have absolutely no idea about. Like, for example, they want to build a new stadium for Roma, but they are not allowed to because they can't, because they know the legislation in Italy, the difficulties. And I believe that these are things that only if you are really Italian and you grew up in that environment, you can understand where to touch upon. Because we saw it with Rocco Commisso, with really great intentions. He tries also to have a stadium. It's impossible for him. It brings difficulties if you don't really know where you're entering. And they all come with the same discussions. We want to have our own stadium. We want to grow the brand we have. And then at the end, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and we as Juventinos, we don't get a free pass from that. You saw Andrea Agnelli, he did put down the stripes on the shirt, he changed the logo, very Americanized and commercial thinking, and the Super League. So just because we have a Italian owner and a big family, we're not free from that.
No, but look, I think that Andrea Agnelli understood really quickly that things were going faster than we were planning, because there was a plan in 3 years competing for the Scudetto, in 5 years competing and doing well in Champions League. Then, luckily, in a way, we won immediately the Scudetto with Antonio Conte. The actually 1 year, not that much when he entered, Andrea, but he just arrived. But the year after, we won immediately, so things were going much faster. And he understood really quickly that the entries from the Italian soul were limited, because you already hit the roof and you couldn't expand your club, because, the difference with the 80s is that in the past, your sporting results were actually bringing you brand recognition. Because you were doing well on the field, it was bringing you brand recognition. Your club became even bigger and well known. While today, in 2020, the difference is that the brand and how you grow the brand will bring you the capacity to have and reach sporting result. It's a small change, but it's really important, and you needed to continue to grow your brand. But in Italy, you have hit the roof. Why? Because you already owned your stadium. That was already done. Because the Serie A was slowly but surely more and more dying, and instead of going up front, they were going actually ahead.
Yeah.
In terms of marketing, in terms of everything was done on the Italian soil. So you understood that we had to go abroad and make actually the brand bigger. And how can you do it? It's also looking at the international fan by going with maybe a new logo that some appreciate, a lot of loyal ones they don't appreciate, because you have always both sides. But I believe that the new logo brought a lot of new opportunities, like, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, that was brought to the club, of course, with a dream to win the Champions League. But that was not the main factor of bringing Cristiano. The main factor of bringing Cristiano was that you would immediately, instantly grow your brand in a velocity that was impossible to do. You are winning like a 5 year. Then things went wrong with COVID. Happens. This is something nobody could plan. It was a risky one. And if you don't do anything, you can't go wrong. And we tried something. It didn't happen as we planned, unfortunately, but it is because we tried to anticipate what was coming. And what was coming is now the dominance of Premier League. That is extremely clear. You can't compete anymore on the transfer market. You can't compete with transfer salary. And at today, and especially after yesterday, the Supercoppa in Saudi Arabia, where you had 9,000 people only in the stadium, you can see that Serie A is not going the right direction. So if you want to compete in a way, it's not only with sporting results on the field, because look at teams like Napoli that last year had fantastic results on the field, but it's all the other things. Otherwise, yesterday I was a bit sad when I watched these images, because we are still speaking about the winner of the Scudetto that was there in Saudi Arabia, and it's not even attractive.
Yeah.
Because people, they do not care. So the sporting result is one, but it's even more important if you want to continue to grow. It's what your brand is communicating to the outside world and how big you can become. And that's why we understood really well that Super League had to be an option, or could have saved football if you were not part of the Premier League. At the moment, we will watch and we will see. But in the meanwhile, we didn't stop, because we were already starting about a B plan. And the B plan was the growth of next gen for trading, because it's not that all the next gen player will become first part of the team, but for trading, because a player that you are growing and you can sell for 2 million euro, it's still a 2 million euro profit, which is coming out of nowhere, and it's really great. Look at the Ranocchia, for example. It will bring you 4 million euro, your own ownership. So it's 4 million euro profit that you are having on Ranocchia that is now going to Palermo. After a few loans, we tested. It didn't work out. He's going there. And other players can have the possibility to reach the first team, like Fagioli, like Miretti, like Ken Agnelli, for example. And all this happens in probably the biggest problematic moment of Juventus, while a lot of people were giving up on Juve, where a lot of people were throwing shit on Juve, saying bad, there is no future, there is no project, we are only taking bad decisions. And in the meanwhile, really silently, but Juventus continued to seed the plans. And today, if we can speak about having 8 players born after 2000 that are starting in the first team, it is because in that moment of difficulty, aside from the project Super League, we're already investing in what if it doesn't work. And now we are starting to see the result of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was another question. You see now, I think AC Milan is talking about it, and Atalanta to have a B team or a second team. We have next year for like 5 years now. And we started to see the bearing fruit for, as you mentioned, Miretti and Fagioli and such and such. Why don't the other Italian league teams have a second team?
But I remember really well the discussions. I think it's like 7 years ago. The discussion started about the possibility to have it, and Milan was interested. Atalanta was interested, Roma was interested, Juve was interested, and a lot of clubs were about to start the project. And they really wanted to do it. They understood the importance of it. And then they all gave up except of Juventus. I have to admit that it was a real chaos back then, because you had to do it like in 1 month, having all players immediately. And it's actually a huge investment in terms of money, because people, they see it like, okay, it's a third division team. With every consequence, you have to pay the subscription to participate in third division. You have the travel, you have the hotels, you have a stadium that you have to find, it's a location. You know that in terms of return on investment, you will not have an immediate return on investment on that project. And all the teams, they gave up, while Juventus did. And I remember that during COVID time, well, these teams, they were all extremely happy, because they only had to focus on their first team continuing to pay salary, while Juventus, they were obliged to pay for Juventus Women, for the Youth Academy, for the Next Gen project that back then was still called Under 23, for our first team. So everything was stopped with, but it's like you have no entries anymore, but you still have a lot of things to pay. We took a risk. We had a big disadvantage during that COVID time, but we went through it, and look now how we are. And there were absolutely no facilities to start. Now I saw that in the latest discussion about creating, because they understood the importance of it and how it's working, Italian state of Federazione Italiana Gioco Calcio, they even want to partially support and give some support and give some help to the team that would love to create a second team. Which, it's always like that. Juventus, they start something, they take all the risks, and sometimes they are even paying the consequences of it. And then we open the road for people to say, oh, let's go for it. Unfortunately, what you have to read in the media is the President Gravina that is saying, but the example of Italian football is Napoli. These are the things, that makes me extremely angry, because we took, so much criticism on everything. And we had so much difficulties. And again, do you see that Juventus is opening the way and we don't receive any credit for it?
Yeah, exactly. Because of the time that Andrea Agnelli was our president from 2010 to last year. Last year. You see the own stadium, you got the next gen team, we got the woman team. We got everything built from the start, and we got the Ronaldo affair. We got De Ligt. We were planning to buy Pogba already then, to build a new team to win the Champions League. And as you said, we take all the risks by doing that, and no other Italian team are doing just that. So we paid the price for it because of COVID pandemic too. And now we start.
Sorry to interrupt you, but with Cristiano Ronaldo is exactly the same.
Yeah.
We can discuss here hours if it was good or not to sign Ronaldo. But the last time that Serie A was put on the map and had that moment of, wow, Serie A could potentially be back, it was not last year with the 3 semi-finals. It is Cristiano Ronaldo. If you're looking at all the other teams and how much money they made about it, selling tickets when Juventus was visiting them at double, if not triple the prices because of Cristiano Ronaldo was there. It was incredible how much deals were made because of Cristiano Ronaldo for Serie A. And all these things were not even given, with a bigger portion to Juventus. It was divided by everyone. So, the Serie A movement, the last time that they had that peak was because of Juventus took a risk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have a COVID, and who is paying the consequences of it? Only Juventus, not Serie A, because they didn't care. Okay, it's fine, and that's a huge big pity. And then Juventus, because of that, they made a lot of mistakes, because it was, when you do something and you fail, you have to also be accountable. And Juventus, on top of not receiving credits, on top of not receiving the big portion, they received also probably the biggest punishment.
Yeah, and we see now the red numbers are planning out, as you said, and you see the family, you got the capital increase, and now you see more good numbers, and it's going the right way. If you see Berlusconi when he sold AC Milan, when Moratti sold Inter, it took 10 years without Champions League for AC Milan. That's not the saga we're going to see with Juventus.
When we were doing objectively bad, I always said on the channel, guys, I'm a old vintage Juventino, and you have cycles in life. You have winning cycles that at a certain moment they stop. You need a bit of time, and then you are back.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say with Juve is that we will be back. I don't know when we will be back, but we will be back. And probably sooner as all the other clubs that would have been in our situation.
Exactly.
I don't know if we will win the Scudetto this year. I don't know if we will win the Coppa Italia. I don't know if we will be able to compete until the end. But today, on the 19th of January, we are competing at -2 after everything what happened. Like after being in second division because of Calciopoli, not that long after, 5 years after, we were competing and winning the Scudetto. Which other team would have been able to do it? And it's time on time again. And history is repeating itself. And I will tell you even more. In all that disaster time, with the -15, -10, a player with this, Juventus, with the worst game ever on the field, Max Allegri out, whatever you want to, Juventus always minimum qualified on the field on Champions League. And as you said, other teams, big teams, when they were down, they were really down and long down without European competitions, which Juventus actually always did. So, that's why I'm always saying, of course, you have to criticize your club when it's not doing well, because we are supporters. We don't care about rationality, finances, and whatever you want. We live with our heart, with our passion. And when we are watching teams in the rest of the world that are doing other things, that are participating, are winning the Champions League, of course you are jealous, of course you're angry, of course you want to do better with your team, especially when you are not winning and you are not used to it, because we have a lot of fans that never knew a non-winning Juve. Of course, but I think that it's important, and that's why we go back to the history of Agnelli, 100 years, to understand that you have a solid ownership, you have a solid culture, you have a solid DNA, and that story always repeats himself. Calma, tranquilli, and even in our worst moment, we are doing much better than a lot of clubs. You know, I hope it will not happen again, that we will never win a trophy in a year, because I always want to win. But look, if this is the worst moment that I have to live through in 5 years, winning a Scudetto with Sarri, winning 2 cups with Pirlo, 2 years going in Champions League without winning any trophy, and then being able to go back to compete for the Scudetto and Coppa Italia, well, these are the 5 worst years of a club. Well, I signed for these bad moments.
And I think every supporter of every Italian club would do the same.
I think, yes. Look at Roma with all the story, Mourinho. If you're looking, Mourinho in 2 years and a half was never able to bring them in Champions League.
Yeah.
With all the investment, with all whatever you want to, never. Yes, they won the Conference League. Congratulations to them. But you see what I mean? And this is the peak that they had. The peak that they had was not arriving in Champions League and winning a Conference League. Yeah,
and I've been nagging about this in my podcast, but the history of the coaches of Juventus, we have Trapattoni, who did really great, and they have 3 coaches before they took him back, and great success. The same with Lippi. Could it be the same with Allegri?
Look, we just spoke about history repeating himself, you know, Trapattoni back, Lippi back, Allegri back. I would love Allegri to win. Why? Because I'm a Juventino.
Yeah.
If he wins, what does that mean? That we won. You know, as easy as that. I have never jumped on the Allegri out wagon, because I'm not a out person. But of course, there are some coaches I prefer. There are some coaches I don't like that much. But from the moment that you are representing Juve, that you're working for Juve, you already start receiving my respect and my support. I'm, again, a person that has a philosophy is at the end of the season, you sit together and you have a big meeting about how it went. Sometimes it goes super well and great. Sometimes it doesn't go well. And unfortunately, you have to continue to speak, and probably a bit more in detail. But that's the moment where you have to ask 3 questions. Sorry. The first one is, do you still want to continue? Then you wait the answer of the coach. That will tell you yes or no. If he says no, it's over. Huh? Ciao. We split roads. But if the answer is yes, the second question is, okay, you believe in it, but second question is, do you think that you can reach your objectives for the next year? If he says no, I want to say, but I can't reach them, then it stops. But if the coach is telling you yes, then you have the third question, the last question. Okay, tell me how you will reach your objectives. And that's the moment where a coach needs to be really convincing. If at the end of that meeting, the ownership or the manager or whatever and the coach, they are on the same line, they agree and they have the same vision, they can fight in that meeting, they can disagree, but if at the end of that meeting they align on, yes, we want to be together, yes, we think that we can do it, and this is how we will do it, then you can continue. If there is somewhere something that is saying no in one of the 3 questions or not convincing on the third one, then you have to stop. And that's how I think that every coach should be treated. Of course, we are in 2020, 2024, and things are going much faster. It can eventually happen that these kind of meetings can happen in December, can happen in March. Of course, sometimes you need to anticipate, but always with the 3 questions. And I believe that last season, when all the board resigned and so on at the end of the season, I really believe that this meeting happened. On top of that, again, with a Cristiano Giuntoli, how do you believe? Can we do it? What do you need? I need this. Okay, can we do it? What is the objective? 4th spot. Okay, great. Let's go. And we shake hands and we go. And you see the unity, not only about the players on the team, but players with the coach also with the management. You can really feel it that everyone is going in front of the microphones with the same message, with unity, with the same thing, which is something that we were probably missing last year.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful. And that's why I told everyone, do I want a change of Max Allegri last season? I said, yes, if we don't find an agreement, if we are not aligned anymore, if he doesn't believe, if he thinks that it's time for him to leave. And now when people are saying, do you want to extend Allegri for next season? I tell you, we are only on the 19th of January. Wait until the end of the season, and then they sit together, they go into that meeting, and then we see.
Yeah, and for me, it's a question of finding your identity, because you have Trapattoni for quite a while, you have a Lepe for quite a while. We have like Ancelotti, and it didn't work as it did in AC Milan for him. Then we have Conte, but he has a short burning time. Then we got Allegri for 5 seasons, and now he's back for his 3rd on the 2nd round. So you find the identity that you didn't get from Sarri, you didn't get from Pirlo. You got it in Allegri, and in search for a new coach, you don't have the Juventus identity in a coach right now.
No, and then what are the options for a new coach? You don't know. I always said since before, I really like Thiago Motta, for example, but it's a risk. Because Thiago Motta never coached a team twice a week with double competition. Who else? Vincenzo Italiano, yesterday he lost 3-0 again, but he's doing beautifully, and probably will be a really fantastic coach even at Juve, but you don't know. And there are a lot of factors that you don't know. What about an Antonio Conte with double competition? Because we already had the experience, then maybe he can do better. And if he comes back, I wish him to do better like every single coach. But, there are a lot of uncertainties before going out on the market. And it's not that you can go and find the immediate success. So what is the plan of Juve for the near future? Maybe Max Allegri will say, okay, I fulfilled my mission. That was going back to give you a winning Juve. My job here is done. And then you are obliged to. And that's why we hear other names of because you always have to be prepared in case of. Or maybe he says, I started now finally after 3 years to bring you a winning Juve, and I want to continue to try to bring it even higher. You don't know the future. But look, I wish the best to Max Allegri. Of course, in the years where we were not winning, I was hoping that we won. Of course, in the years where we're not offering a beautiful football, I was hoping for a more entertaining football, a more offensive football. I love when we are winning 1-0 at the 96th minute, because I think that these are the results that are giving me the most emotion. But I also love the 6-1 against Salernitana. And I would love to have a combination. And it's true that when it's a tough time and that you are never, giving that entertainment and you are not winning also, well, it's tough to deal with it. But now, look, we are doing a beautiful season, higher than expected. So I don't want to speak too much about future and what it could be, because we are in the middle of the season. And I think it can only create troubles now, like it was creating troubles when we were not doing well.
Yeah, and I think we took back Allegri, we took back Claudio Chiellini to the next gen team now. We have what you call Tognazzi who left, the chief of scouts. You got Giovanni Mana, who is the right hand of Cristiano Giuntoli, and we got the Direttore Sportivo from Napoli after 8 years there with great success and the final the Scudetto. Then do you think we have the parts of the old Juventus and the new Juventus who can like make a pact to have a great future?
But I don't know if the Napoli sporting director will join you. Of course, if you're reading the media and looks like he would be a potential one to join the team. But I have no certainties about that. But I think that Giuntoli, because at a certain moment I also saw some criticism towards Cristiano because he was not, signing players. He was what is the impact? Everyone was expecting maybe a Cristiano Giuntoli that is arriving and bringing you the name that nobody heard about and that will be the new Kvaratskhelia. No, I think the first mission of Cristiano was to understand the Juve was stepping in, having crucial meetings to understand and to plan this season, limiting the damages and starting to work for the future. But I believe that the first things are planned for the future already, with a continuing of lowering the salary mass, because that's the first priority. Go back in green numbers that are super essential and important. So you're continuing to develop the youth, continuing to develop lower salary that you saw with a lot of extensions of players that are lowering, and then trying to find the players that can bring you a value to the club, that are not that expensive, that are not with a high salary, but that can make a difference in a cohesive team. And these are the short-term future. But Allegri said it last week. Juventus is planning for having a beautiful future, especially with the team that they have now, in the next 5 years. Now, if you expect that next year we are going to Champions League and we are winning against City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, this every single game and competing with the Scudetto, maybe your expectations are wrong. It can happen. Football. That's why football is beautiful, because everything can happen. But we are planning a 5, and you hear it, the word 5, because when you are in a company, you always plan a forecast, and you can forecast on 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years, which are considered the short term, medium term, and long term. The most important for a club, for a company, is the long term, the 5-year plans, which for us fans, our biggest priority is the 1 year plan. And that that's a big difference is in analyzing. And in these 5 years, some things can go wrong, but the important one is that in the 5 years, you were able to reach your final objectives.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the calcio mercato, we see some names, but I think we like have 20 midfielders who is for our team, but we have Nicoloso Caviglia, we have Meretti, we have the blossoming of Kenan Yildiz. So we have a lot of midfielders, young, but a lot of them. And we got like a dad on the midfield in Rabiot and such. So the calcio mercato now in January are quite quietly.
Well, look, if we're speaking about midfield, I would love, in terms of quantity, to still have one midfielder more. But the question is, who? And who can we go for 6 months? I believe, but again, this is my personal opinion, that's not an inside voice from the club, that's my opinion. What I believe is that Juventus was really looking for a midfielder that could support, but a midfielder that we could potentially test for 6 months. Why? Because I think that we have clear objectives in mind for the summer in the midfield that are probably a bit bigger names, probably a bit more expensive names, and they don't want to go and mess up spending money today on a midfielder that can bring something, but maybe not that much as the new one of next year. And if they can't go for the temporary midfielder that they want that can add something, without creating troubles, they will even probably pass on to sign a midfielder. I don't know if it's a good decision. I don't know if it's a smart decision. But we don't know what is the real name for next summer that they have in mind. We don't even know if they have one. I think yes. And that's why they don't anticipate. Then I heard about a Moise Kean that could potentially leave for Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
I think from a club perspective, that would be not that great personally. Why? Because you are not cashing in a lot of money because it's a loan. So it doesn't even bring you a loan. Apparently he will not extend, which means that next year is his last final year of Juve, and he will probably come back. And you are missing a player. If you know that Federico Chiesa every 5 games, is a bit out because he's not at 100%, which is normal. After ACL, you need 2 years to really be back at 100%. If you know that Vlahovic, there are certain moments where you have a bit of that problem, a bit of that problem. Well, if you're really in that run of Scudetto, I don't know if I would let Kean go. On the other side, I understand also Moise that says, I really want to participate to that Euro 2024. I received chances, but when the 2 other ones were out, Chiesa and Vlahovic, and on top of that now, I see that the Agnelli is really exploding. So I don't want to be the 5th striker until the end of the season, because that means I will never play anymore. And probably if I have some chances somewhere else, it's better for me to show myself on an international level, where you saw also that he did really well, for example, with Paris Saint-Germain. So I understand it from Keane's point of view, if he would leave, and if the rumors are true, of course. On the other side, as a club, I would really think twice, because, it would be pity. If at a certain moment you are competing for that Scudetto at the end and you are missing three strikers, that would be a pity.
Yeah, and now when you talk about Filippo Ranocchia is going to Palermo, it's official, and now we got the money for Giallo, who is coming to Turin next week.
According to journalists, yes, but I think it's a good one. Why? Because you are losing 0. At the moment, you have 3 starting defenders, who are Bremer, Danilo, Gatti. On top of that, you have back a player that is Rogani, that is convincing a lot. Even people now, they are saying we want him as a starter. So you have 4 real starter on top of Alexandro for 3 roles with 1 competition only. We had Dino Huijsen that was not finding space, not because he was great or not great, but because there was no space for him. You know it, in football, we don't change a lot the defenders. So they have a bit less opportunities. But in case of, you have even Alexandro. So Giallo, that is coming back from injury, starting to touch ball again, he will not be immediately ready. But you will have him already at home. He will, because he already speaks Italian. Sorry. So he can continue to develop the language. He will start understanding the coach, the club, his teammates. No stress, no pressure to play immediately. Maybe we can see him a bit in the last part of the season to make his debuts already, to be ready next season. And you're spending how much? 3 million with some bonuses there for a player that last season had a value around 25 million euro. You anticipate Inter, if really it would flop, which is always a possibility, you didn't lose anything. If it works, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, and I think about the calcio mercato, you got the attraction from a club as Juventus. You got Locatelli, who didn't want to go to Premier League to go to Juventus. You have Federico Chiesa, who left Fiorentina of all teams for Juventus, and the same with Dusan Vlahovic. Do you see, we going back to Champions League next season, do you see the attraction of the club can bring the big players again?
Champions League is fundamental. If you see the transfer market that Milan did this year, it is because they were in Champions League. Otherwise, I don't know if they would have attracted a Pulisic. Of course, yeah. Ownership of America is important, but also the competition that you are playing in. And they signed a lot of players also thanks to that. So if you play Champions League, not only you have more attractability on the market and on the international stage to say, come to us because we are playing Champions League, but on top of that, you have also more chances to keep the players in your team. I think that was a real big miracle last season, that we were able to keep players from the caliber of Vlahovic and Chiesa. Because, of course, if there was a huge, big offer, we would have listened to these offers. But still, keeping both, I think it has been really a miracle. On top of a Bremer, for example.
Yeah.
So I think it has been really a miracle to keep them, but it was difficult to have other players and tell them, oh, we don't know if we will play Champions League, UEFA, Conference League. We have no idea what will happen. So it had been really, really, really difficult. Yes, on the other side, you will not be able to compete with salary offers from other players. A Kefren Thuram, for example.
Yeah.
Now you have Manchester United that is also owning this. So some owners have both clubs. Well, it can open the way to go to Manchester United. And if they go with a lot of money on salary, you can't compete. So it's not only you participate or not, but what can you offer? Especially with now the Decreto Crescita, that decree law of Italy that is going away. It will be even more difficult for Italian clubs to compete with other leagues. So, it's not only Champions League, it's all the other external parameters that are extremely difficult now to go for. But, of course, it helps. For example, one of the big advantages is in attracting young players. Ken Agnelli, when he sees what Juventus is doing on the field, is coming to Juve. Matthias Soulé, whatever young players today, they can think about, okay, Juve is a solid project. Like, for example, Adzic that will arrive next season, is a player that if he has the possibility to go to Bologna or to go to Juve, and even if it's starting with the next gen, he knows that Juve has a solid project that is not only blah blah, but also with facts proven. So now Juventus is again putting themselves in a real beautiful position on the transfer market.
Yeah, and about that, you got the work of Giuntoli with extensions of like Bremer or Gatti and such. And they going to do the same with Szczesny, and now we're talking about Chiesa and Vlahovic to spread the salary, because Vlahovic is up to 12 million euros a season next season, so spread out the salary. So they are working to make the club more what you call it,
financially healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then of course the players, they need to agree. Because you can offer, you can propose, you can work out a project. Then the player needs to say yes, we want to, or no, we don't want to. Look, Bremer, they didn't touch on his salary, but he just arrived. But we were extending, so financially it's a benefit for Juve. Then, it depends. I think it will be important, especially Chiesa becomes a priority to understand what he wants to do. Then in life, you never know. Huh? You can split roads. You can stay. Everything can happen, and we don't have the crystal ball. The thing is that you have to understand, to make a great offer, and to have a B plan if in case it doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly, and the swap deal who was supposed to happen last summer with Vlahovic and Lukaku didn't work out. But do you think we can see the real Dusan Vlahovic now with the goals he did this time?
Look, it's a good question. I don't know yet who is the real Vlahovic. And that's an important one, because we saw him the first season at Fiorentina, fantastic, great end of the season with 6 months. Then the second season in first team Fiorentina, we saw him really great in the first 6 months, and then he arrived at Juve. So I never saw Vlahovic a consistent year at the top, because he did really well the year before 6 months. And then 6 months great at Fiorentina before joining Juve with a big salary. So I need to understand which one is the great Vlahovic. If we speak about potential, Vlahovic is fantastic. Vlahovic is their top player. How he takes the ball with his left foot, the physicality. He has everything to succeed like the player. And I'm happy that he stayed at the club and that we can continue with him. I think that we already passed the moment of he will score, and then that will be the moment where he will. Because it already happened a few times that he scored, Okay, now he will need that for his mental. No, but it looks like he found some serenity the last few games, and that is helping him a lot. Is it private life or whatever? I don't know. But I was listening to the press conference post Sassuolo game from Max Allegri, and he said something super important. He said, before the game, I went to him and I spoke to him one-to-one, because when he entered in Coppa Italia in the last 30 minutes, he was again all over the place. He was frustrated, he was angry, and he didn't perform well. We were luckily winning 4-0, but he wanted to do too much. So he wanted to do too much. And how many times did we see him complaining with the referees this season when things are not going well, when he's missing a goal, going a bit out of the game? And Max Allegri said, I went to him before the game, I spoke one-to-one, I said, serenity, be calm, focus on your game, stay on your game, and things will go well. Look, in the last few games, we saw him doing that when he started, and we see a total different Vlahovic. And if he can continue to work on that one, I think it's not, now that the physical problems have been solved, I think that we can see the potential on the field. But now it's mentally. If he can continue to be strong mentally, we can see a really strong Vlahovic for more than 5 games, 6 games, but really with continuity. Look at a certain moment, he missed that bicycle kick. Do you remember a few games ago? I don't remember again which team it was. I think Roma, I believe. I'm not sure. He missed that bicycle kick. The first thing that you see is Federico Gatti that is running towards him and he's hugging him, telling him, it's okay, it's fine. You got this. We'll do better. I think, no, it was a game where he scored. I don't remember. But that's what I want to see. Calm, focus, stay in your game, because you can play football.
Yeah, and I think we started to see that again, the team spirit of Juventus and the DNA of the club in the players. So it's a big difference, this Allegri side and the last side he has, his 5 previous years. But you're starting to see it's building up, and you see we are 2 points from Inter, with the Fagioli and Pogba situation, the money and everything around, the penalties from last season and everything. We are 2 points from Inter, so it's coming back. It's coming back soon, I think.
But you know, not a lot of people are talking about it, but last season we had so much uncertainties. When you are playing a football game and you have a possible, I don't know, ball that is arriving, and you have to really extend your foot to the max to control that ball, or you have to go into a sliding tackle, risking to hurt and the player and yourself.
Yeah.
But if you don't know if it's really worth it, because maybe you will win that game and they will anyway take you these points, well, as a player, you are thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
It's not because you don't like the club. It's not because you don't like the shirt. But it's just because you are doing something where you have absolutely no idea if it's worth it. Because you think at the end, we will give our life. We will maybe risk 2 years injury. And they will anyway take it. And at the end, it happened, because all what we did on the field, they took it away from us. So a player that is coming back from World Cup, he won the World Cup, and in a situation where whatever he does, maybe it will not even be worth. Well, he's thinking twice about it. And I believe that, you know, these are the unsaid things that also happened last season, that people are thinking twice before going crazy.
Yeah, and we saw it the game pre-Empoli when we got the end points off like 10 minutes before starting in the game. You see the psychological side of the players. 4-1.
But the crazy thing is, first you have that sense of reaction because we are winning 1-0.
Yeah.
And then you have a total collapse of the entire team. Huh?
Yeah, and then you see the what you call it, the management of Allegri. I remember every press conference after that decision, he was behind the players, in every situation.
True. No, I believe. Look, I think that to me, if you could possibly have sacked Allegri after Maccabi Haifa, after Benfica, after Monza, for the on the field, especially before all that drama. But from the moment that all that drama happened, he was the best one. He was the best one to stay with the team, understanding better than everyone what it was needed there. Because if at that moment on you sack Allegri, you take a young coach, Montero, because there were voices about Montero to the first team or whatever, new coach, Tuchel, they were speaking about Tuchel, they were speaking about so many coaches back then. Imagine you arrive in such a difficult moment. You have to explain, guys, let's go for it. Believe in me, I'm the new coach and we will get it. And then you don't even know what you will get. In a trouble situation without, it would have been what a disaster. So, no, I think he was the best man to do it last year.
Yeah, exactly. A big thank you for this episode, Beppe. It was an honor to have you on.
No, it's mine. Look, I'm happy because we didn't even speak about this season, about the game against Lecce. We went a bit about the 360 degrees of Juve, and it was really nice to speak with you. Also, hearing the knowledge that you have about football, because we didn't prepare anything, or at least and then hearing you comparing with Famiglia Sensi, Moratti, Berlusconi, understanding really well, show the knowledge you have not only about Juventus but also Serie A, and that's really a pleasure for me to listen to. Unfortunately, I don't speak Swedish, so I can't follow that much the podcast, or at least to understand, but that's really nice. So for all the listeners from Juventus Svezia podcast, you have a great man here that is representing you, so continue to listen to him. And before I close, I really want to say thank you to Rocco, that is a loyal listener from your channel, and also from my channel that is setting. Beppe, they were speaking about you on the podcast. Would be nice if one day you can join them. And I said, look, I will try to listen. So I listened, and it arrived quite early, I believe around the 5th minute. And I said, yeah, that's a good one. I hope we can do that. So thanks to him, because that's nice. people are going from one to the other, connecting dots.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rocco. Grazie.
And grazie mille from my side to you. It was a great honor, and I get what you call it, a blooded tooth to do this in English again. It's my second language, and I have to learn and talk more English to get what you call comfort in it. But it was a great honor to speak to you today.
No, you did really well. You did better than me, Fredrik.
And you did a little part of Swedish too, so it's great for me.
I learned. God morgen Juventini Verden. I learned.
Yeah, you learn quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeg mør bra, lite sjuk men bra. That means, if I'm not wrong, it means I'm doing okay. I'm a bit sick, but still okay, right?
Exactly. We do a next episode in Swedish.
In Swedish.
Yeah.
Tack.
A big thank you, Beppe, and we hear from each other again.
Thank you, Fredrik. Ciao a tutti.
Ciao a tutti. Grazie.